Hello and welcome to Basic Fishing Bites, and today I'm going to run you through how to tie up a slapping slash mugging rig for carp. So basically it's a rig where you're fishing a long pole, fishing mainly banded pellet, and you're rotating that pole to make a slapping effect on the water to draw the carp in. And I'm going to show you how to tie that rig up now. So starting with the actual base, I like to tie my rigs on a rig mate. It's a nice central board, it obviously has measurements on, but the most important thing for me is the two pins on either side. I feel like it keeps a nice tight line, which makes it so much easier to actually put your weight on the line, put your float on the line, everything with a tight line. I always think makes everything so much easier, and also your weights are in one place. And then going on to this is actually called a rig strip, and this is one from the commercial bagging range, and as you can see from the title, it's the rig we're going to tie up today. Literally it says slapping slash mugging, and you can see the float there. It's a Guru wire cookie, and that's what we're going to tie up today. Tells you the line, the shot, and what hook length to match it all up to. So really good to get a few of these. They come as a set of 5, but obviously we're only going to tie this one up now. And as you can see on the actual strip itself, one end has a hole, one end has like a bit of a groove on. So the end with the hole, what we like to do is just slot it over the right hand side of the rig mate board, because that's where we're actually going to attach our hook length to the loop to loop later on. And now once everything's on the board, I've put this groove over this pin on the left hand side, so it's nice and tight now in position. The strip can't go anywhere. It's nice and flat, and a perfect little century to work off. So starting off with the actual line, it says to use Engage 022, this nice Guru line. It's actually £9, a really strong line, and one you're never going to get broke on, which I think is really important on your main line. You don't want to be losing your floats and your whole setup. So what I'm going to do is just going to undo this little screw on this side. I'm going to take the metal collar off. I'm just going to slide my 022 line over the top, put the metal ring over the top, and then screw in the screw bit. And I'm just going to give myself a little bit more line to work with, because obviously I'm going to attach my float now and tie a loop. So I'm just going to get a bit more line out to work with. And now I've got loads of line basically. So then moving on to the actual float, this is a Guru wire cookie float. This is what I love to use for slapping, a nice short float, because we're only going to be fishing in the upper layers of the water, probably like the top foot, maybe top foot and a half of water. This is just the 0.3 gram version. Wire stem just has a bit of weight, so if you're trying to flick at fish, which is what mugging is, you're trying to catch the fish which is swimming past it, you can actually see the wire has a bit more weight in the rig, and you can flick at the fish. So this is the perfect float. And now moving on to the silicone, obviously I need to cut 2 bits of silicone. This is just 0.3mm clear silicone. And what I'm actually going to do there is I'm just going to cut 2 pieces. I'm going to cut one bit a bit shorter and one bit a bit longer. So you'll see here, this first bit here, probably going to be like 3mm long. And then that next bit's probably going to be about double, maybe close to a centimetre actually. I don't think, on lots of my floats I like to use 3 bits of silicone, but because it's such a short float and such a short stem on the float, I don't think you need 3 bits. So I'm just going to go with 2, just cutting the line off to make everything a bit easier. It makes it easier to pass the line through the eye of the float like I'm doing now. And then it makes it easier to put the silicone on the line as well. So just putting that little short bit on now, like so. See it on there. Going to attach that longer piece as well. See he's on there now as well. All the silicones are on. And literally now I'm just threading these bits of silicone on the float. And what's really important now is you see this short piece I'm putting on first. You don't want it right butted up against the body of the float, because you can see now the line will dig into the float. When you're moving the float depth and things, what will happen there is you'll make a groove in your float and you'll wreck your float. And also the pressure of if you have a fish on with that silicone butted right under the body means sometimes the eye can pull out. So what I like to do is just move that float down about a centimetre from that body, and it just relieves that tension on the body and the eye, and now everything will be intact. You'll hardly mark your float and your eye won't pull out, so really important. Then this second piece of silicone, I'll make it a lot longer, because what I don't want is that. I don't want my silicone all the way up the float like that and the wire sticking out the bottom, because what can happen when you're playing fish and fishing is the line can rub into that stem and it can actually cause you breakages. So what I like to do is just move that longer piece down so there's a bit overhanging the actual bottom of the stem, and now when you move the line, can't get damage on the actual stem of the float. That's a good little tip. And now we actually have our float on the line and we're ready to tie our loop. So what I like to do is use a loop tire to tie my loop. I feel like we can make very accurate small little loops. So what I do is just form an overhand loop with my fingers, put my middle finger in it just to create that tight line between those two bits of line. And then what I like to do is just put those pieces in that neck of that loop tire, spin it twice, and then put this loop now formed in the middle of the loop tire like so. Let it all fall down and slowly work that now off that loop tire like so. Give it a little lubrication, a little lick, and now we have a perfect little strong loop on the end of our actual rig. Just going to trim that tag end off really nice and neat, like so. Absolutely perfect. So now we're ready to put the shots on the line. So just going to undo the actual clamp, give myself a bit more line to work with. Hang on 1 second. Just got caught underneath, I think. Oh, it's all going on here. Let's put this metal bit back on. Put this pin back on. Now we're ready just to put this line back on. We're going to have to just tighten it back up again. So obviously it just went behind the spool a minute. Just literally just spinning the spool now, just tighten that line back up again. So I don't want any slack in the line. Like so, you can see now that line's nice and tight. I'm just going to spin that to keep it nice and tight like so. So now we're absolutely ready to put our shots on. That tight line keeps everything nice and tight. And what I like to do is just move that float into position where it says on the actual board. I feel like that's a good distance there. If you attach a hook length, that's probably the perfect depth for slapping for carp. I find it about 15-16 inches is about absolutely perfect, and this plus a hook length is about perfect. That's why on this strip we designed the float to actually be in the middle of the strip. So this is actually a 0.3 gram version, and as you can see on the strip, it says it here in green, 0.3. So we're actually just going to follow the shot in. Obviously it doesn't take a lot of shot, because what we like with a carp fishing rig is a very slow fall for the shallow fishing, and when you're trying to mug them, you don't need any shot down the line trying to sink your hook bait, because you want the fish to have the hook bait up right on the surface kind of thing. So the shot now go right under the float, and we only need two number 9s, two number 9 cubes, which I've got here in my little pot. But you can see the advantage here. Keep this line nice and tight. Makes putting the cubes on so much easier. There's one. And there's two. And that's all it'll take. And then once you have your pellet on, your 6mm or 8mm pellet, it'll be shotted absolutely perfectly. So he's ready to go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on a winder. So just going to undo the pin, undo the spool so the spool can spin. And about 12 to 13 turns is about the distance of my top kit, and that's what I like to use. So I'm just going to give it 12 to 13 turns around the winder. So I can go 1, move that float, 2, into the middle of the winder, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. Just trim him off, and then what I'm going to make on the end here is just a big overhand loop, and this is basically where I'm going to actually connect my rig onto my actual elastic. So I like to make a big loop on this side, and it also means when you're slapping your pole over the rig pushes away from that pole tip and you get less tangles around your pole tip if you make a big loop. So that's really important. And then I just attach this big loop around the actual corner of the winder like so. And there we are. Basically, we now have the perfect rig, perfect slapping carp rig. So get out there and tie some up and give some slapping a go. So I hope you found this video useful. If you want to get your hands on some rig strips, they come as a pack of 5. They're available from rigmate.co.uk. We have lots of sets of strips for you to copy, all different rigs, the rig I've just shown you, and lots of other ones. So check it out at rigmate.co.uk. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so we can keep bringing you loads and loads of more content.